Hey guys, I wanted to just share a little experience that I had yesterday in a gas station. And so, first of all, we've been in a 3-day blizzard. They're actually talking about historical amounts of snow already. And this is only our second snow. First one was just a couple inches, but now we're talking feet. And so the city is actually encouraging people to stay home. It's completely black ice underneath the snow, and the snow is compact, and so a lot of accidents, a lot of people actually being stranded. And so the experience that I had yesterday, because that kind of shows you, what kind of weather we're having at this moment. And so yesterday I was in a gas station, and there was a clerk behind a counter, and then there was which was a gentleman, and then there was another gentleman that had came in a wheelchair, and so he had to use the restroom. And so as he's headed back, the clerk behind the counter hollered at him and said, "Are you parked at the gas pump?" And the gentleman said yes. And so the clerk proceeded to tell him, "You cannot park there," even though the parking lot was empty. And so it was obvious that he was completely out of line. Here in Colorado, there's a lot of places, unless you buy something or purchase something, you cannot use public restrooms, which is, it's awful. People don't always have to have something to relieve themselves. So it's really ridiculous. Terrible customer service. I have no way of saying that. But at this point, the clerk was basically telling him you cannot use the restroom and you cannot park at the pump. So at that point, that's where I actually had to kind of, and I hate saying this because I'm not somebody that typically does this, but I have zero tolerance for people being shitty to others. And excuse my language for that, but this clerk was completely out of line. So here he is getting onto this guy, and I actually over-dominated the situation, and I spoke over the clerk and said, "Sir, you go ahead and use that restroom. If I need to purchase something so you can use the restroom, I will do that. If I need to go out and pump your gas so you can park there, I will go pump your gas." And so at this point, the guy was in a wheelchair. He obviously had challenges, even to pump the gas, okay? They're high enough off the ground, that alone would have been challenging, okay? Opening the doors for himself to get into the restroom, that is challenging. So for this clerk to holler at him and tell him what he cannot do in an empty parking lot that made no difference was completely out of line. So I overspoke over him and said, "Sir, you go ahead and use that restroom. And again, if I need to pump your gas or purchase something, we'll make this happen." And so it obviously upset the clerk and completely triggered him. And he turned around and looked at me and said, "Who the F are you?" And at that point I said, "This is the most awful customer service I've ever seen." And I said, "For an empty parking lot with nobody here, there's no reason for it other than you stepping out of line." And so he's immediately, because my energy, okay, when I need to over dominate a situation, my energy is very powerful, and I absolutely will over dominate the situation. I have zero tolerance for that, and I will transmute you and your energy, period. And so I don't like to be this way, but I even more so do not like people being treated that way. So yes, that triggered me, watching this man being treated this way for absolutely no reason. So after I told him, I said, "That is the poorest customer service I've ever seen." He stopped, he felt my energy, and then he started to explain what he was going to do. And I said, "You have one hell of a way of showing it." And so at that point, the gentleman was coming back out of the restroom, and the clerk not only transmuted his energy, self-reflected, and realized he was completely in the wrong, he went out there and pumped the gas for the gentleman in a wheelchair. So, when it comes to people being out of line, or basically just being out of line, I mean, it's completely unacceptable for no reason, whether you're in a business or you're just somebody that you know. It doesn't matter. It's unacceptable. The easiest way is to handle it by enforcing self-reflection. That gentleman had to realize he was completely out of line, especially working for a business, and he went and pumped that guy's gas for him. And so the gentleman was, that was in the wheelchair was able to use the restroom, had his gas pumped for him, and I would have went and did it, but I let the clerk go do it. I was like, you need to take responsibility, and I didn't have to tell him that. My energy told him that. And so he did. He pumped his gas, and after that moment, his attitude completely changed, like polar opposite, and he was a much better human to work with. And so when it comes to poor behavior or people stepping out of line, if you do not speak up or if you do not speak your truth, that's what enabling is. And so it allows people that are behaving poorly to continue to behave poorly. And so by me enforcing him energetically to self-reflect, he went from telling him you cannot do things to pumping his gas. And that is how you transmute energy in a positive way. So